What's going on, everybody? Maybe we are actually live here. So I want to do a live Q&A. And while I'm waiting for people to come on and ask questions, I just want to give a little bit of an update on the drawing that we did 2 days ago. So we had the drawing for the December sweepstakes 2 nights ago on January 20th. And as any of you know, that if you were watching, I pulled out this thing, Jimmy Jones from Centerville, Utah. And we tried to get a hold of him a number of times on the live stream, and we failed. But I was able to get a hold of him the following day. And funny story, I'll probably end up sharing this again in the as people come on here and ask questions. But he literally was watching that NFL playoff game, and he saw the number come through. He was even on my text list. Like, he got my text message saying that we were doing a drawing that night. But then he just thought it was spam. He's like, "Oh, it's just spam." And I believe he said, when I talked to him, I believe he said that his wife was sitting right next to him, and she's like, "Oh, it's just a scam. Like, don't worry about it. Just watch the football game." And so, yeah, that's what he was doing. So anyway, he nice guy. I think he's got some kids that ride as well. And he lives here in Utah, which is pretty cool. So I sent I made the introduction to him to the sweepstakes administrators, and they're trying to get him validated and everything. I don't think they have, let's see, I don't have an email from them yet saying that he's all good. At least I don't think I do. So yeah, but they're going to validate him, and then we'll arrange and give the bike to him. So that's how that worked. It's way more fun if you can get somebody on the phone during the live stream, but oftentimes I just can't, and we have to do it afterwards, and it takes some of the fun away from it, but it is what it is. So as you're coming in, if you have questions, let me know what they are. I don't see any in the comments over here yet. I'm gonna just see if I can change this so I can see all the things in the chat. Interesting question. So I get a lot of emails, and I do a lot of phone calls with people, like trying to help them to know what to buy as far as dirt bikes. What's the first dirt bike, or they want to know like what maybe helmets to buy, or some tire suggestions or things like that. So I do a lot of that type of email and a lot of those types of phone calls. And this is a perfect example of an email that I'll get. So this guy, his name is Steve, and he said that his oldest boy is ready to move up from a KLX 110 big wheel. He fits the Honda 125 big wheel pretty well, and I was wondering if that would be your suggestion for his next bike. He continues, "I ride a KTM 250XC on single track trails, so I'd like a bike that would do that well. No sand dunes or track. I just want a low geared bike that is forgiving and wants to do semi-technical stuff. Is there a better option than the 125 or the 140? So this is an interesting part, because he doesn't say how old the son is, or how tall he is, or how much he weighs, but a KLX 110 big wheel is a pretty small little bike. I'm guessing this person is 10 or somewhere around that, this little kid. And from there, you either go to like that Honda 125 big wheel, which I have, a CRF 125, or you do something like a 65 two-stroke, or if he's tall enough, maybe even 85 two-stroke. It all depends on the kid. But at this point, it's kind of like a divergence, because he's been on this quote trail bike, these air-cooled, bigger, heavier trail bikes. That's what a 110 is, and I think that's great. But then from here, you either stay on that mellow trail track, or you move over to the more high performance track. Dad's on the high performance bike, and so Dad's on a KTM 250XC. You don't get more high performance than that. And so that's the kind of bike that I would have, and I've had many times. And this next bike for this child is a pretty big one. It's a pretty big jump, if you will. And for me, I just would rather put him on something that's more aggressive, even though he says he wants it low geared. Well, 65, and he may be too big for a 65, but if we went with either a 65 two-stroke, like a KTM 65 SX or a KTM 85 SX, that's the route that I tend to want to go. because we either, like I was saying, we either stay on the really mellow trail bikes or we move over to the more high performance, the high performance bikes, like the race bikes, even though we're not racing. And so I'm going to probably just respond to this guy and say, hey, this is more of a phone call than an email reply because of what I've just kind of gone through with you. But that gives you an idea of some of the questions that I get, and I do. These are tricky questions. They're tricky questions to answer. Some of them I have email replies that I can just fire off, or I can just type out a quick email reply. Like there was a guy just a minute ago that was asking about, helmet communications, and I'm like, hey, look, the best in the industry that I've used, it's Cardo Systems, and here's a link. And then you could, even if you want to extend your range, you do like Oxbow Renegade radios, like the two-way radios, things like that. So those are easier to answer, but a lot of these bike questions are harder to answer over email, and so I end up having a phone call, and we can always schedule one of those. Okay, so we got some comments coming here. We've got Throttle Frontier. He says, "What's up, Kyle? Keep up the great work. Thanks." We've got Big A. Big A dot dot dot. I guess that's what it is. Big A dot 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 is the handle. He says, I've been thinking about getting a 250. I've been thinking about a 250, considering the YZ250F or KTM 250F factory edition. What do you recommend, or what would be a different 250? Well, the big question that I have for you, Big A, is where are you going to ride it? You just named a couple of motocross bikes, and so I'm just curious. And you say, what would be a different 250? If you're going to do moto, those bikes are awesome. Me personally, if I was going to buy a motocross bike, I really like the Yamahas. I like the Yamahas because they have great suspension. A lot of these bikes do, but I just love the way the power comes on the Yamahas, and I love the Power Tuner app. Like each one of these 250 bikes, these 254 strokes from Yamaha for many many years now, have a power. You can download the Power Tuner app, put it on your phone, and then you can kind of adjust the engine mapping and things on the bike. And I think it's pretty slick, and you don't have to buy anything extra. With KTM, it's like I feel like you have to buy something extra. I've never been able to tune any of it. We have a 2024 5 KTM 250 SXF. Is it a 4 or 5? I can't remember. It's probably 2025. And we can't tune it. It's an extra thing. Is there some extra thing that you have to buy to be able to like tune the bike on your phone or whatever? So, me personally, I would get the Yamaha if I was going to buy a 250 track bike. But they're all really good. Whenever I'm talking to people about motocross bikes, and it's not like I know a ton about moto. I just know a little bit about a lot of things in kind of the dirt bike space. I don't think you can make a wrong choice. Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki. Um, the Suzuki is a little different because they haven't updated those bikes forever. And so if you're buying a Suzuki, you're purposely saying, I want to save money, and I'm going to buy a bike that they haven't done anything to for a long, long time. And it's tried and true, but it won't have electric start and all that kind of stuff. So if you're buying a Suzuki, you're purposely saying like, I want to save money and then maybe spend other money on maybe suspension upgrades or something. If you're getting the Honda or the Yamaha or the Kawasaki, they're all freaking awesome, and pick your poison. They're all really good. You can learn to ride all of them great, and they're all fantastic bikes. So Poke Cirilla says, hey, from Kentucky, love the channel. The Throttle Frontier says, TW200 is a perfect choice from then, and then jump up to a KLX 250 or a KTM 250. I think what he's talking about is this jump for this kid that's coming up from a 110. A TW200 might be perfect, but I don't think they make the TW anymore. So I'm pretty sure they don't. They don't make a TW200, do they? Now you got me wondering. Just look at this, because they have the TTR, but I don't think Yamaha makes a TW200 anymore. They just make. Where am I at? Yeah, they have a Yamaha only makes the TTR 230, and I'm not a big fan of those bikes. I'd rather move over into the more high performance bikes. That's just me personally. We've got Karth Rotchet here says, hello from Wyoming. Where are your favorite areas to ride during the winter? I was thinking about going to St. George, but if you know of anywhere closer that's not super cold, let me know. For us here, I'm in, near Salt Lake City. Uh, the warmest place to go ride is, in Mesquite, Nevada, or St. George area, Utah. That's the warmest place for us to go within a short amount. And I know it's even further for you. It's about a 4-hour drive for me, but that's kind of where you have to go. There are some places in Idaho, like around Boise, I know that you can ride in the wintertime, but it's not going to be warm. So yeah, if you want to ride in the winter, you got to go south. So that's what there is. Let's see. Red113 says, what do you think dictates what or who do you think dictates the way the sport goes? What I mean by that, 2-stroke or 4-stroke models, I seem to think the consumer is left out of the equation and it's driven by politics. This is a great question. I think, I don't know exactly who is at fault, but I feel like racing is the people who are in charge of racing are the ones who are driving the sport. So when we moved from 2 strokes to 4 strokes for like supercross and motocross back in the early 2000s, that was essentially is like kind of the death of the 2-stroke. And the bikes got more expensive, and they got more expensive to rebuild the motors. And it everything got more expensive when that happened, in my opinion. And the manufacturers, I don't know whose fault it is, but it's easy to kind of blame like the AMA and say, well, there was a rule, and I hope like don't take this for gospel. What I think happened is I think that there was a point in time when you had the ability to run a 254 stroke in the lights class. So it used to be back in the day, you had 125 class, which was the lights class, and then the 250 class. This is when it was 2 strokes. And then all of a sudden, they let a 250 4-stroke go into the lights class. And also, they were letting 450 4-strokes go into the premier class. I don't know when it all happened. I don't know who did it, but that's what I understand is that at a certain point in time, everybody's racing 125 2-strokes and 250 2-strokes. And that was what these main classes were. And then somewhere along the way, people let them put in a 4-stroke, which was double the displacement, especially in that 250 or that 125 class. So they let a 4-stroke go in at double the displacement. And it was because, I don't know, maybe they assumed 4-strokes don't make as much power per cc or something. I'm not exactly sure why that was. But all of a sudden, then at 125 2-stroke, within just a short amount of time, had a really, really hard time competing with the 250 2-stroke or a 250 4-stroke. And now, and it just, all of a sudden, it was like, well, why the hell would I, if I'm going to race this lights class in the AMA, Supercross, motocross, why am I going to race this 125 when I could race a 250? It's got twice the cc's. It doesn't make twice the power. I mean, probably now they do, but it just kind of like that killed the 2-stroke because all of a sudden these classes turn from 125s and 250s now to 250s and 450s, and it just really sucks. And then it feels like to me, all of the decisions or most of the decisions that are made in these motorcycles are to make them go fast as F, like fast as freak, and be able to go onto a motocross track and clear every jump that is there. And that's what we have to buy. And it's kind of odd because it's the pinnacle. So the pinnacle of racing in our sport, which is it's either MotoGP in Europe or Supercross and motocross here in the US. Those disciplines are what's driving the end product that they're going to sell to us, which is kind of weird because like in what are the if you look at the premier racing class in the whole world, you could either say it's Formula 1 or you might say it's something else, but I'm just going to use Formula 1. Formula 1 is like the biggest racing series in the world with the most money behind it, and they have the highest paid drivers. And Mercedes is a race team, and Ferrari is a race team, and McLaren is a race team. Those cars that they're developing for the highest level of their sport are nothing like what you can buy. So they realize that, like, hey, we're going to build, Ferrari is going to build this F1 car, and Mercedes is going to build this F1 car or F1 car, and no one else is going to be able to touch it. But we're gonna like race that car around. And then we'll have these other cars for consumers that are a little bit better for every consumer out there, because we know the consumer can't drive a damn Formula 1 car. But in motorcycles, we're not doing that. It's weird because it's like Yamaha, Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki, KTM. They're making these bikes that are for the best riders in the world. Now, I understand that the factory bikes are a little bit different. They have a little bit different components. But the point is, for all intents and purposes, the bike that is in the showroom floor is the same bike. I'm using air quotes. Don't hit me in the comments to be like, do you have. Yeah, I understand that there are some differences in the factory bikes, but there are riders that have ridden freaking factory bikes in motocross and supercross and been able to, like, do well. The point is, the exact thing that they're running in motocross is then boom, they just trot that out to us here and they just, here's the new YZ450, and look, it just won supercross last year. And it's the same thing within all intents and purposes. So all of the decisions, most of the decisions that they make are all based off racing these series. And then as it trickles down to us in the consumer market, a lot of the decisions that they're making are they make these decisions. It's like, this bike has to run so fast, and it has to be so unbelievable. And when I go, and I've gone to these like little manufacturer days, like with Yamaha or with KTM or with Gas, and I see some of these test riders that are riding the bikes and giving them feedback, the factory feedback on what to build. Those guys are fast. They are fast AF. They're all like retired racers or people that have like grown up with a dirt bike between their legs from the time they were 5. They're freaking fast. All this trickles down to a machine that is delivered to us that is way more than most of us can handle. None of us are going to admit that, because we all want to be like, we've got our egos involved in all this stuff and be like, no, I need that fast bike. I need this bike. I need that bike because I might be Eli Tomac or I mean, like, okay, I'm not Eli Tomac, but I'm kind of like him, or I could be like him or whatever. And the truth is, we're not at all. And so the sport is dictated by racing. And then there's the rest of us down here at the back end of the sport, and we're going, or like the base level of the sport, and we're like, dude, you're making these bikes based on people who are so much faster than us, like monumentally faster than us. And yeah, I just think that it makes it hard for us to then know what to buy. And it goes back to this original question that we had, where there's this guy and he's saying, what should I get for my son? And I'm like, you either keep him on the slow track of like the really, really mellow trail bikes, or boom, you go on this other vein, which is the full-on racing bikes. And there's not really anything in the middle. There just really isn't. And it makes it hard to know what to get. And so I have these conversations a lot. It's like, well, do you want to stay on the really mellow track of the TTR 230s or the, the TTR 110s and all that stuff? Or are we going to click over here and go like with the YZ125, like, or YZ125X, something like that? Because you really only have the 2 ranges. In Yamaha, you have those 2 ranges. In Honda, you have the two ranges. So there's nothing in the middle for us, just like, hey, we want to be like single track enduro guys. And then we buy these bikes, and a lot of the stuff that they're doing with the frames and the suspension is dictated by motocross, where these people are going so damn fast. And it's a balancing act. And then we get these bikes, and most of the time, I think the bikes have way too stiff of suspension for most riders, and that's what we're dealing with. And very few people have the are confident enough and secure enough to be like, yeah, that bike is too stiff for me. Because if you say the bike is too stiff for you, then you're admitting that you're slow. And I'm here to say almost every bike that I've ever bought from the factory, the suspension was too stiff for what I'm trying to do. It's probably because I'm not riding moto. You know, if I was riding moto, it might be a different thing, but most of the time I'm not riding moto. And so then I get this bike that even wasn't, it was a quote trail bike. It was an enduro bike from KTM or Gas or Husky, or it was the quote enduro bikes from Yamaha. And I get it. And it's like, this thing is too stiff. And yeah, so that's kind of my update there. That was a long, sorry, that was a long winded thing. Jeremy, is Jerome? I can't read that. Jeremelana 444331 says, how's your knee doing? Thanks for asking. I had physical therapy today. So I'm about 8 weeks post surgery. I had to have my ACL reconstructed and they stitched up the meniscus. And the first 6 weeks was in a straight brace. And now I got out of the straight brace 2 weeks ago. And so this is where the real work is starting, is because now I'm able to put weight on it while it's bending. So I'm going up and down stairs again, and I'm doing physical therapy to like strengthen the leg again. And it's, and even working on my balance. Like today in physical therapy, we were working a lot on balance. We were doing, and I couldn't believe how hard it was. So imagine standing on a foam pad that was this like 3 inches tall or whatever, like a squishy pad, enough that you can like stand on it and it doesn't totally compress under your weight. Stand on that on one foot. And I've done some things where I'm throwing balls into a tennis, like into a trampoline and catching it. But today I just had I don't know, like an 8-pound ball standing on that piece of foam on one foot and then moving side to side like this. Watch. Can't do it. So just I'm like this, and I get on one foot, and then go. It's hard to even do it right here without the foam, but hold a ball, and then turn side to side like that. So with holding that ball, standing on one foot, and then rotating my body side to side, and because you're on that foam pad, you're so wobbly. And I was like, I cannot believe how difficult that is. Because I'm trying to get the strength back and trying to get the balance back and the proprioception and everything. It's wild how much just like, having an injury like that, your muscle is atrophying super fast. And it is sickening how fast your fitness goes and how fast your strength goes when you're not doing it. And I've tried to stay lifting and stuff a little bit while this was all happening, but I couldn't do basically any lower body stuff, and it sucked. Okay. Next question. It's this person is, some of these handles are too, it's at STORMZZR123. Hey Kyle, I'm riding a 2019 450 XCF, that's KTM. But I find the air forks harsh for enduro and trail riding. Any recommendations for these forks in regards to what air pressure to run? So first off, a 450 is hard to ride in enduro, and it depends on how much you weigh. So you don't tell me how much you weigh, but on a lot of those air forks, I ran them with way less air than what the recommended pressure was. Let me give you an example. I remember some of the years they were telling us to run 139 psi as like a baseline for like a 160-pound rider. I don't know, or 160, 165. I don't know how heavy you are. But the heavier you are, the more you're going to be down in the stroke. And so in some of those years, I was running my bikes at like 118 psi on the forks. Instead of being at 139, I was clear down around this 120 range, and it made it better, but like, I don't know how fresh your oil is in the bike or in those forks. So that's something to check too. But what I was doing in some of those years is running a lot lower pressure than what it said on the fork, in what it said in the manual or whatever. So I'm betting that your manual says somewhere around 139 or 140. I went clear down to 120, and I could get something that kind of worked for me there. So just something to try. But again, Your results may vary. The poke, we've got at Poke Skrilla says, I'm about to grab a leftover TE300 Heritage next weekend when I'm back for traveling. That'd be great. The leftover bikes are the way to do it. MMIG 2116 says, Kyle, you're awesome. Love KTM mostly, woods riding, doing turkey runs. So that's awesome. Throttle Finder says they still make the TW. Okay, I thought they don't. The TW. What am I missing? You're saying they make the TW? Why am I not? Are you talking Yamaha? Now you got me questioning. TW. They don't. Oh, the dual. Okay, the dual. Okay, okay. We're talking a whole different thing. The TW. That's the fat bike. Okay, this is not. This is not the type of motorcycle I recommend. These I'd forgotten that they still made this because this is so far out of my what I like. But yeah, they make a TW is the fat tire bike. That is not um air cooled. That's not. It's a dual sport bike. They have signal lights. They have rear view mirrors. They have license plates. That's why, because we're not talking dirt bikes. That's a dual sport. So I'm like, yeah, you could do that. That is not the bike I would recommend for this person to move his kid to. So, um, let's see. Okay, what's this? Okay, so Polish, and let's see, we got Polish Hammer says, what's the next step up from a balance bike? Son is 2.5 and loves it. Also, any recommendation for a 44 looking to be in the sport? The next step up from a balance bike is getting him into learning pedals. And you can also the first. Okay, so there's a few things. So the balance bike is teaching him how to balance, which is great. I love that. I also think he needs to, after he, at a certain point, maybe 2, 3, 4, somewhere, he's got to figure out a pedal bike. I'm just saying, for everyone should know how to ride a pedal bike. But a Stasic, they make these electric bikes. And if you get him a Stasic, then he's going to be able to learn how to do the throttle. They're kind of expensive. They're like $1,000. But the Stasic is a little bike, and if he can ride a balance bike, then he eventually can learn how to ride this Stasic, and he's learning brakes and throttle. And I like the Stasics. And then for you, 44-year-old, like looking to get back in the sport, maybe a local track. What I need to know is, like, where do you live? How much do you weigh? How tall are you? These types of things. And then we could go from there, because there's a lot of different bikes that you could get for you. But for your son, a Stasic is going to be a really good jump, and also a pedal bike. But kudos to you for getting on a balance bike at 2. So my youngest son, not my youngest kid, but my youngest son was like rocking the balance bike at 2, and it was super fun. We got Super Cub 53 kilo says, I'm 15 and I've been riding all my life on a Husky TE 125 right now. I want more low end. So do you think I should get a later KTM 200 or a KTM 250? So you're 15 and you want more low end. I'm always very hesitant telling anybody under 18 to get something bigger than a 125 two-stroke. I'm fine putting somebody on a 254 stroke. So if you've got a KTM 200, the 202 stroke would be fantastic. They don't make them anymore, though, so you'd have to get off the used market. The only one that I can think of off the top of my head that still makes a 202 stroke is the Beta. They make a 200 RR, which could be really great. But my question is, like, I would ask you where are you mostly riding this 125, and how much do you weigh? And if you're, because so much of this is just learning how to ride the bike better. One thing that I don't like to get into is this idea of, like, I need more power. Sometimes you want more power. And I got to be honest with you, at 44, I have more fun riding a KT, like riding a 250 two stroke than I do riding a 125. But I'm 44 and I get to make that choice, and my prefrontal cortex is completely developed. Whereas if I was young in the sport, I tend to have people stay on the smaller displacement bikes maybe a little bit longer than they want to, because there's so much more that can be squeezed out of your bike right now than what you are getting out of it. And I can say that with pretty much certainty, even though we've never met, because I've seen how capable these bikes are. And I still haven't seen personally, met anyone personally that could max out the capability of the bike that you're on. So, but you do say, I want more low end. I get it. Sometimes I want more low end too. And so, if you want more low end, and if you're going to be riding motocross tracks, the next bike would be a 250F, like a 254 stroke motocross bike. If you want more low end for doing enduro stuff, then yeah, you kind of do have to move up to either the 202 stroke or the 252 stroke. But I hesitate recommending that to a 15-year-old who I've never met. You know what I'm saying? Because I just don't like, they have so much power. It's so easy to get in trouble. And eventually you're going to move up to it anyway. Like in 3 more years, you'll be 18 and you won't listen to what anybody says, and you're going to do whatever you want. And you're going to but at 15, I'm just like, slow down for a second. Like, let's talk this through. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you need more low end? Like, what's the problem that you're having? And so I like to have those types of conversations, and it's not easy to do over just a YouTube comment. We've got Theodore Morgan 5826. He says, "Hope your physical therapy is going well. What are your thoughts on the new Suzuki DR4S? DR4s? The Suzuki DR4s. I don't. Oh, are you talking about a DRZ 400? DR4s. So the DRZ, like, this is not something that I pay any attention to. Okay, the DRZ 4S. Okay, this is totally. It's yeah. This isn't in my wheelhouse. So this is a dual sport bike that you can ride on the street and maybe take off road just a little bit. They have signal lights, they have mirrors. This is not my cup of tea. It's not where I go. So I can't speak intelligently about that. It's the dual sport thing. And anytime I've been, and I haven't ridden this particular bike, the DRZ3. I know a lot of people love these dual sport bikes, but it's just not for me. It never has been. And I don't know if it ever will be. But that doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means I'm not interested in it. So I'm not gonna. I don't have anything intelligent to say about it. Dirtable TV. Is this my buddy? Dirtable TV. Big Idaho trip this year. What front and rear tires do you like there? I like semi gummy tires. I still haven't found a front tire that I like better than a Bridgestone M59. I do have a whole email on tires. The Bridgestone M59. I like there's the X31 that is great. As far as rear tires, I have a whole list of them. So if you want to email me, in fact, I wonder if I could just put some of these things in the chat. There's too much. Send me an email. But I like that Bridgestone M59 on the front. I like the IRC VE33S Gakota on the rear. I like the Tusk Talon rear tire. It's soft and gummy. I like the Shinko 520 DC. It's the dual compound. I love that one. Shinko 520 DC. That's some really great ones. Dylan Crow 7919 RMZ 250 suspension is great. It's the RMZ 450 everyone wants to change so much. I mean, so it depends on who you ask. The point is Yamaha or Suzuki hasn't changed these motocross bikes in a long, long time, and it's totally a business decision for them now. Alex Sierra 001 says, The KTM 250F factory comes with the unit to change the mapping and stuff. Pretty sold on the KTM, and I was considering the YZF for the suspension and power delivery. Haven't rode either, but hear good things. Okay, so this is a follow up to the question earlier. That's good to know that their factory edition comes with the mapping, the ability to change the mapping. But here's what I say, and this is where sometimes people get surprised. I want to bash KTM for this. And I say, why in the hell do I have to buy your factory edition to get the tuner, the ability to tune my bike in the same way that Yamaha has allowed you to tune its base level bike for like 7 years? Why in the hell do you have to buy the premium to get the thing? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And when KTM is wrong, and on that, they are dead wrong. The fact that they have been so far behind Yamaha on this for so many years, I think is egregious. And I think it's totally stupid. The technology is there. And when KTM does something stupid and screws up, I say it. That's stupid. KTM is stupid for making you have to buy the factory edition motocross bike to be able to tune the damn motor. That's stupid. Because Yamaha doesn't make you do it. Honda hasn't figured it out yet, and Suzuki hasn't figured it out yet. But it's just wild to me. It's like back in the day, Harley Davidson. My dad was a Harley rider, still has a Harley. It's like Harley didn't have cruise control forever, and like Yamaha had it on their bikes for like 10, 15, 20 years before like Harley Davidson got on board. And it's just this is another one of those things. Not that either one of these companies represent, Harley Davidson. That's a whole other story. But it's like the fact that you have to buy the factory edition to get the thing that that's stupid. I'm just like, no. If it were me, I'd buy the Yamaha over the KTM if I'm getting a motocross bike. Yeah, Throttle Finder or Throttle Frontier he's just lighting me up for the TW thing. It's in the middle, and they make a couple of 2020. It's in the mid, but it's not in the middle. So I'm going to defend myself. This TW 200 is not in the middle of what I'm talking about. The TW is still in that mellow trail bike thing. Look at the suspension on the rear. Look at the suspension on that bike. Look at the brakes on that bike. It has a drum brake on the rear on the TW. So like, to me, I don't even think about these bikes because it's got signal lights. It's got a drum brake. It doesn't have the suspension on the rear is basically non-existent. The suspension on the front is non-existent. It's not in the middle. I'm sorry. Agree to disagree. At Two Wheel Song says, I'm still mad I didn't win Sunday. Yeah, only one person could win. At Saint Arnix says, gotta buy that works package. Let's see. We've got Robert. Oh yeah, it's Robert Mudez or Robert Mudez, 08 or 8079. Have you heard anything about the new Kawasaki two-stroke? All that talk and then they went dead. I haven't seen anything more. No, I haven't. And I did a video on this just a few weeks ago. I just called him out. I'm like, where's your two-stroke? Like, you said, we heard you. And I don't know. There were some people that emailed me, and one person said it was tariff issues and stuff because of the administration, like the White House administration, and so then all the tariff stuff kind of like put them on hold. I don't know. All I know is I'm pretty frustrated about that. It's like, Kawasaki, you sit there and you tell us we heard you, and you do this big thing, and then you don't do anything, and that bugs. I hate that. Let's see. Guessing you got a hold of the grand prize winner. Did you record? And we will see it. Okay, so I mentioned this at the beginning of the thing. I was able to get a hold of Jimmy Jones the next day. He finally just called me out of the blue. Well, not out of the blue. I'd been calling him and texting him. So Jimmy Jones was the winner of the December sweepstakes, and yeah, he just called me. And so I chatted with him, and he mentioned that he saw the phone call come in. He was sitting on the couch watching I think that night it was the Bears and the Rams, the NFL playoff game. And he said his wife told him like, oh, it's just like a telemarketer or it's a scam or whatever. So I was giving him some crap. I'm like, dude, you were getting lit up in the comments because of the fact that your phone had, that service on it, which I would say maybe 5% of the people that I call have one of those services where you call and then it's a service where you have to say like who you are and then they get to hear that before they answer. And he he didn't answer the phone, but super cool guy. He was stoked, and no, I didn't get it recorded because it's just like by that point, like I don't know when he's gonna call, and so I have to just like I'd have to like set up cameras. I'm like he calls, and I'm like, oh no, wait, I'm gonna set up all the cameras and do all this thing, and it just seems like it's by that point it seems like no one's going to believe it anyway. Like if you're like the reason why I do the drawings live is to have it be transparent. By the time that then we didn't get him on the live feed to then all of a sudden be like, oh, guess what? Here he is, and then start the cameras and everything. To me, that loses it loses all the kind of lusto is like gusto is gone and it can look like it's contrived anyway. And I'm like, no. So I just had the conversation with him and I sent the sweepstakes company, the administrators, his information, and they're working on getting him validated. They have to send him like a W-9 and like a thing to verify his identity. And yeah, so but he does live in Centerville, Utah, as you can see, and I'm in Utah, and so I should be able to meet up with him, and then we can do a handoff in person, and I'll record that and everything. And so yeah, it's always super like a letdown when we don't get to talk to the person on the live feed, but it is what it is. David Fielder, 8621. Have you ever ridden with flex bars or the Mako 360 mount? What are your thoughts? Yes, I have used both of them. And um, some people, like if they have like shoulder problems or maybe tennis or like a tendonitis or, they've got some elbow problems or something like this, I have had a lot of some people tell me that like the flex bars have helped them and help their fatigue and make it so it doesn't hurt them as much to ride. And similarly, I've heard some people say that with the Mako 360 mount. To me, I've never liked I don't love the flex bars. I don't love just for me, less is more on my handlebars. And I like a very clean setup and I don't like a lot of bull crap on my handlebars. And so for me, which of the two do I like better? It's the Mako 360 mount. I've never loved the flex bars. I just feel like there's some disconnect. I want to feel the input that I'm getting, and I just don't love the flex bars. The Mako 360 is okay, but it's very expensive, and I don't have anything super bad to say about it other than it's a lot of bulk up there on the front of the bike, and I just like a clean setup. And then because I'm switching bikes all the time, I don't want to do anything to my handlebars that isn't easily repeatable, if that makes sense. Because I will only ride a bike. I'll ride 4 different bikes typically in a year, and sometimes more than that. And so I have to be very careful about what things I get like comfortable. Like, oh, I have to have this. Even tubeless is like one of the like I love tubeless on my tires, but sometimes it's like it it gets what's the word exhausting having to install 4 different sets of tubeless in a year. Um, onto these motorcycles just to ride them like a limited amount. And so that's one of my holdbacks with the Mako 360 mount is I'm like, it's a pretty good product. And a lot of people that have it like it, but I like a really clean setup on my bars. I don't want a lot of give. I want the give and everything to come from my front tire and my forks. I don't want it to feel like my handlebars, like I can push and move and rock my handlebars. And that's where I don't like the flex bars. And then it's just more bulky and more stuff up there. And to me, less is more. And I don't want to do things that I have to put on every bike. So that's my thing. Like, I don't have anything bad to say about them. I'd prefer the Mako 360 over the flex bars, but there you go. What have you found to be the best food to pack on the trail for lunches? I will show you a couple things that like are huge for me, like big calorie gains for a low amount of weight. Hold on. Okay, so the first one, and I have had hundreds of these over the last while. I'm not affiliated with these guys in any way. I wanted to be, but I couldn't get them to want to sponsor any videos or whatever, or these G2G bars. I had to grab these out of the fridge. These are, you can find these in the refrigerated section at your grocery store a lot of times, or you can buy them on Amazon. I buy these a lot on Amazon, and I just buy the variety pack. You have to refrigerate this because it actually is food. And in these bars, you're getting 300 calories in each one of these different bars, and you're getting quite a bit of protein. And so the calories and the protein I want. Now these are like it's these. This is hard right now, so it's you have to. It takes a minute to chew through these, but this is a good protein bar. G2G G2G protein bars, and they're high calorie. Um, High in protein. You get, as far as your protein, you get 18 grams of protein that and 300 calories, which is awesome. So I bring those. I'll bring one or two of those on every ride. I mean, that's like almost a full meal, one of those. And then you guys are going to laugh at this one. My fiance calls these fat shakes, but I will take these Ensure Plus shakes a lot. This is what they give. This is what you give an old person at a rest home in order for them to maintain weight or whatever. But I buy these ones, and it's 350 calories. You're looking at that right in this bottle. 350 calories. And so you can take that, and if I have two of these things on a ride, there I have 650 calories, and it doesn't take that much weight. And then I might put like some other things in there. Like I've done fig bars. I've done a lot of different things like jerkies and all those types of things. But like this is a really easy way to get 300 calories. That's an even easier way to drink 350 calories, the Ensure Plus shakes. And you put that in your pack, put a couple of those in your pack, and that's a lot of calories. And that's what I need when I'm out there. Like I've found a lot of these other things are not super calorie dense. Like I've made sandwiches before, and like the bread doesn't do me a whole lot of good or whatever. So that's something that those two things I've been taking those. Sometimes I'll get dried mangoes or whatever and bring that too, just for something else. But those are a couple things that I've been using quite a bit here. I need to cut you guys loose because I have a phone call I got to get on in 5 minutes with somebody that scheduled a phone call with me. This is a perfect example. He says, I'm just reading the notes for the phone call. He says, I have a 2019 KTM 300 XCW and looking at a 2024 XC, but can't decide if I should get it or not. So in 5 minutes or whatever, 8 minutes, I need to jump on the phone call with that gentleman and just kind of talk through that. If you guys have any questions, you can always send me an email. It's kyle@dirtbikechannel.com, or you can go to my website and actually schedule a phone call like this person just did. It's there's a contact page on my website. If you want to support what we're doing here, please use my links to Rocky Mountain ATV. It might get you entered. I mean, it'll get you entered to win the bikes when we give them away. So in March, we're doing another giveaway. It's another KTM 300 that I'm having the suspension worked on as we speak. So it'll be a sick bike, a brand new bike. Nobody will have ridden the thing, and it'll have completely awesome like enduro single track suspension that we're having done at Motor Experts. So sorry, I didn't realize what the time was. I need to jump off this and be able to take a 5-minute breather and then get on that other call. So I appreciate you guys. Congratulations to Jimmy for winning that bike. And until next time, leave a single track. Thanks, everybody.